If you are tired manually job searching, I'm going to cover an AI agent that does all of that for you. This agent will scrape Indeed, send you an email every morning with personalized, curated matches that it thinks fits you. In this email, you'll be able to see which skills you have that are a match for this role, as well as where are the gaps in your skills that you could work on to get this role. By the end of this video, you won't have to manually search job boards anymore because I know how painful and time-consuming that is. Now, let's walk through how the AI agent and the automation actually work so that you can do this on your own. Interestingly enough, the reason that I wanted to put this together is because my best friend recently actually just got laid off from his job, and I wanted to find a way to help him out. So please know that the majority of this workflow and template was actually from another YouTuber who I found, and I'm going to link his profile down below. I made my own personal tweaks to this workflow so that it better suited what I was trying to do. So let's walk through that together now. In this workflow, it is powered by N8N, and let's see how things operate. First, let's look at some cool functionality of this automation and agent. The first part of the agent analyzes your actual resume, and that's how it's able to extract keywords that it uses to scrape Indeed. And then after it has all of that information, the second part of the AI agent actually does a job matching algorithm. And that algorithm is what you see right here in terms of how much of a match is this job based off of all of the keywords that it extracted from your resume. But now let's look at the actual details of the workflow. The start of this workflow is simple, and then it starts to get a little bit more complex. By the way, if you are new to N8N, I have a beginner guides video that you can watch if this feels overwhelming. This workflow starts with a schedule trigger that runs daily. And the goal of this is to receive an email for new jobs that maybe you might have missed. From there, once this workflow actually gets triggered, then it goes and points towards a Google Drive so that it can actually download the specific resume. So for yourself, what you can do is upload your own resume to Google Drive and then make sure it's pointed here. From there, this is where it gets really cool. So it starts to extract all of the data from that resume so that the AI agent can actually start to analyze it. Now, once the data from the resume is extracted, here's where things get pretty cool. Now, once all of the data from the resume is extracted, this is where things get pretty cool. The AI agent starts to analyze that resume, and then it starts to generate job titles that are adjacent or synonymous to that resume. For example, let's say I'm a financial analyst. Well, if I'm on Indeed or LinkedIn, I'm not just going to look for open financial analyst roles. I'm going to look for senior financial analyst, budget analyst, because those roles are similar to the skill set that I have. Now, once the AI agent has extracted those relevant keywords from the resume, then it'll feed into this HTML node, which will set up the Indeed URLs that will get fed into Firecrawl. And for Firecrawl, we'll look at that in a second. So don't worry if you don't know what it is now. So if you look at what this is actually doing, it's taking the base Indeed URL and then appending the different titles of jobs that it searches for. And this basically looks at, we have it set up to where it looks at 5 pages worth of jobs. Now, you know how I mentioned Firecrawl? Well, if you aren't familiar with Firecrawl, it's a service that lets you scrape websites. We've set it up so that Firecrawl will scrape all of the Indeed URLs that we had just created in the previous node. Now, let's just take a step back to look at the bigger picture to make sure we're not lost. We submitted our resume, we downloaded our resume. From there, we extracted the data from our resume so that the AI agent could analyze it. Once the AI agent has finished analyzing it, we need to properly set up the URLs that Firecrawl scrapes. So that's what we did in this node here. Now, with Firecrawl, we have scraped these nodes, or we have set it up so that it scrapes these specific Indeed URLs to get the actual postings. Now, after this Firecrawl node executes, that process is not instantaneous. So because of that, we have to set up a system that will pull the data from that node once it actually has finished scraping. So that's what we've done here. To do that, we have just set up a execute sub workflow node, and that sub workflow is here. And basically, this will keep running until it's able to successfully pull the results from that Firecrawl scrape. Once that has finished running, then we move on to this node here. Now, after that sub workflow has completed, then we move on to this HTML node here. All this node does is it takes the data that was scraped and then outputs it into a format that we can actually use for another process that we have next. So if you look here, it's taking all the data that was scraped and then formatting them and breaking them out into usable URLs. We need those usable URLs because for the next step, this is where we actually look at the specific postings for each of the jobs that we have been looking at. So for example, if you think about it, we have a financial analyst job page and there's like 10 different jobs there. We have that URL, but now we actually need the URLs of the specific jobs and their postings. So that's what this is. This is the URL of the specific job postings. Now, once we have the specific URLs of the job postings, here is where we actually start to do something pretty cool. We activate the sub workflow again because we know the scraping process is not instantaneous. And then once that sub workflow has completed, then we look here and then it formats the data that comes in because we always need to format the data for it to be actually usable for when we feed it into the AI agent. Now, after we have formatted the data, here is where we have to split the jobs out and then feed them into the next AI agent one by one. Now, let's look at this AI agent because it's pretty cool. This AI agent will grade how well your specific skill set and resume match with a particular job posting. So if we look at that AI agent, what it's doing is it's saying, hey, here's my resume and here is the job title. Can you please analyze from a scale of 0 to 100 to see how qualified am I for the specific job? And if you remember from the email that we looked at, it looks at what skills you have that are a match, but then it also looks at the missing skills that you don't have that are a gap. After that AI agent has finished scoring all of the jobs, then what it does is it merges them all together in this node here. Because if you remember, we had to separate them out so that the AI agent could analyze them one by one. And then now we need to merge them all back together. Once all of those jobs are merged back together, then it feeds into this HTML node, which basically just extracts all of the jobs and put them into a format that is actually usable. After it extracts all of the jobs, this is where it gets pretty cool. It takes those jobs and filters them. And you might be asking, Timothy, why does it filter them? Can it just give me all of the jobs? Well, if you think about it, you don't want any jobs that you don't have a high chance of actually getting. That would just be a waste of your time to apply to. So what if we could just filter only the jobs that you have a high chance of actually applying to and getting an interview? And that's what this process does. It says, hey, for all jobs where the score is greater than 50, please return them to me. But for all other ones, exclude from this workflow. So that's like kind of cool. Once we have filtered out the jobs, this next node here basically just sorts them so that the jobs with the highest match score are at the top, which is pretty obvious. After it has finished sorting the jobs, then it just gets fed into this HTML node again to format it in a way that we can actually use. We've made it to the second to last node, which is the HTML node. If you think about what we've done up until this point, we've got all of these jobs, we've filtered them by their relevance to us, and we've sorted them by highest likelihood or highest match score. But that is a bunch of raw data. And raw data doesn't look nice unless it's formatted properly. That's what this HTML node does. It takes all of that data that we have wrangled and it turns it into a way that is actually aesthetically pleasing. For this HTML node, this is pretty interesting. What it does is it takes all of the raw data that you've generated up until this point and formats it into a way that is nice and easy to look at. This is the final output, and this is what we looked at the beginning of the video. How crazy is that? Once you have that nice output, then the final step is for you to send it to your email address, and that's what this node does here. Now, if you have any questions about building this workflow, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you're interested in downloading and using this template for yourself, all you need to do is click the link down below in the description and you can download it completely for free. Once you're at that link, all you have to do is either come here to YouTube N8 templates and find the video, or you can search here for the name of the YouTube video. Right now on the screen, you don't see it because I haven't uploaded it yet, but by the time this video is up, you'll see it.